What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Pickleball Connection. I'm Danea.
And I'm Barrett.
And we're super stoked to be hanging out with you guys today. Today, we're going to be doing a Cruise to the News, or CTN, where we look at all the latest goss, news, and all the exciting things happening in pickleball. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Yeah.
Yeah, guys, let's hop right into it. And guys, just so you guys do know, we do want to point out that we did finally get our episodes up on Spotify and other streaming platforms besides YouTube. So I don't know how you're consuming today, but please spread the word about the podcast, like, share, and that way the more, viewers and the more engagement that we have, the better we can make this, the more guests we can bring on. And so forth. But without further ado, let's hop into today's first topic. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So many of you probably already know by the time this podcast's out, there's been a development in the paddle gate of 2024, meaning I call it the paddle gate because there's been so much development. So much paddle drama when it comes to this year as far as regulations, rules, things like that. As many of you know, the USAP, we're going to try to get this right. There's a lot of acronyms. The USAP for the past, I think since 1984, has been the governing body in pickleball. USA Pickleball.
Yeah.
Yep. Has been the governing body in pickleball since about 1984. They've been the one in charge of paddle regulations, rules, the development of rules and things like that. But as of late, just recently, the UPAA was formed, and this was formed by the PPA and the MLP, which is the Professional Pickleball Tour style tour, and also the team style tour. And the UPA had sorry, this is
you're doing good.
This is a lot of acronyms, guys. But the UPA was recently announced amidst all this drama with paddles being delisted. And people have kind of been waiting to see, what is the UPA going to do? Are they going to delist the same paddles that the USAP delisted, or are they going to kind of follow suit? Are they going to be different? So there's been some development. I know that was pretty long-winded, but there was a rumor, a pro pickleball player who primarily plays on the APP tour, so kind of, maybe an unbiased pro pickleball player, tweeted that there is rumored in 2025, the UPA, or the new governing body, will be charging paddle companies $100,000 just as like a base entry to be able to submit a paddle for certification, and then $5,000 per SKU. So what this means is, it's going to become more and more expensive to be able to have a UPA approved paddle, or a paddle that you can play at a tournament with. So what people are kind of saying, this is going to kind of change the barrier of entry into the paddle business. So a lot of these smaller brands, there's like over 1,000 paddle brands right now. Do you know that?
I'm surprised there's not more. Honestly.
I think it's close to 1,200.
It's crazy.
Paddle brands, because under the former governing body, you could go on to USAP and it's like $1,000 per paddle. It's not that expensive, and it's really not that hard at all to get approved. So the UPA has said, we want to make it much harder to get approved. And in doing so, I think they're going to be able to regulate a little bit more easily, because a lot of these smaller companies may be in trouble. They may not have, a lot of these companies are operating at basically a flat line margin. They're not really making a ton of money And so, or initially, right? So to be able to fork out $100,000 and think about player sponsorships and all this other stuff.
And that's not including player sponsorship. It's just $100,000 flat.
Right.
For your paddle to be approved to play in MLP or PPA.
Right. I'm just saying they in addition to having to fork out now $100,000 plus $5,000 per SKU, plus them having to potentially sponsor, players, that's too expensive for a lot of companies, especially a lot of those smaller ones. So we're wondering what, this has kind of been rumored. I don't know did you hear what Pardo came out and said?
Yeah, I think to my knowledge, he kind of was like, don't report false news and stuff like that. But also he didn't deny all of it. So
right. So Connor Pardo,
so like a little allegedly,
the head honcho of the PPA tour, kind of came out and said to the Dink who reported this, like, don't be reporting fake news. But he also didn't deny any of these claims. And everything that we're gathering is that this is probably very close to accurate of how this is going to play out. We will see what happens in 2025. But paddle companies that are smaller, that don't have a bunch of cash sitting around, could be in trouble.
Yeah, it's true. It's definitely interesting because for a while, like I've told you this for years, I've always said there's so many paddle companies out there. I bet it's going to dwindle down to, 10 or 15 main companies. I mean, even 15 is a lot, but, this would really kind of start to push for that to happen, which is, it's interesting.
Yeah, it is. So guys, in regards to this, let us know in the comments what you think. Do you think that in the next couple of years, there's only going to be 10 paddle companies that remain? Do you think that these other newer paddle companies will emerge? What do you kind of think will happen here? Because I think the spot at the table is shrinking, as far as the paddle companies, I think that will be there a couple years from now. So if you want bonus in the comments, name the top 10 paddle companies that will survive this, and which paddle companies do you think are in trouble?
But it is interesting to think about. Like, let's just throw it out here. You and I have been playing pickleball for like 4 years now. We're kind of like, we're not OG, but we've been around this game for a while. There are paddle companies. Like, I wonder, like Electrum used to be huge. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
It used to be huge. I remember.
Dude, I saw a reel the other day from this Electrum creator, and it was like,
I didn't even know they had.
I didn't even know they were still around.
I didn't either.
I was like, wow. I mean, I think the creator had like under 1,000 followers. Not that really matters, but it was like, I was like, I didn't even, Electrum's still out there.
Dude, I didn't even know. But like, I think of these brands that used to be so relevant that are like, I'm just like, where are they at? Like it's crazy to think that, this could push, this would push a lot of smaller brands out, which is, it's hard. And also maybe that's good. I don't know, but.
Yeah, for those of you that didn't know this, I'm going to disclose this. I just think it's pretty interesting. We're not going to go into the details, but Danea and I did try to start a little side business in pickleball. Probably
this was like 4 years ago.
4 years ago. And when we first started playing pickleball, I just wanted to try all the paddles, but I didn't want to fork out a bunch of money and deal with the returns and stuff. So we put some money into this kind of online business where you could rent a couple paddles at a time for a monthly fee, and then buy the ones you like or send the ones you don't like back, resell your paddles online. We kind of created this, but we ended up having to turn away from it, close the door on the business. We decided to walk away from it because the year we were launching, hundreds of companies started to be launched. And so we couldn't keep up with the SKUs. It just didn't make sense for us because inventory wise, we couldn't keep up. So it was a good idea. It was a good thought, but it's so interesting to see the flood into the market. Everybody wants into the game, but now with this governing body, I think we're going to start to see people getting pushed out of the game.
Now, here's the deal. This is really just talking about PPA and MLP. Now, USA Pickleball, still is the governing body for the APP. So, keep that in mind. That's kind of the only thing that's going to be affected.
Right. And then obviously you also have to think about internationally. I know that there's countries there's brands like I believe 60, right, is an Australian brand. So you're going to have other brands that maybe, don't really care about being USA approved or I mean, you're going to have other brands as well. But I think the big players, the pool is shrinking, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens. But this is pretty interesting. Not only do I think the kind of the barrier of entry is growing for brands, but also I saw a recent post. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody posted a spreadsheet compiling all of the costs and expenses of what it costs to play pro pickleball for a year. It was very interesting. They took all of the events, they took the travel expenses, they took the tournament registration fees, they compiled your yearly expenses for a pro pickleball player. Do you have a guess at what it was?
No idea.
So it was just over $40,000.
Wow.
So for a pro pickleball player to play in every or 90+% of the PPA pro events with all expenses and costs, $40,000.
It's a lot of money.
So, it's getting more and more expensive. Also, not just for the companies, but it's getting more and more expensive for pro players to break into the pro scene, the barrier of entry again.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested, especially up and coming players, how
it's a lot harder.
Yeah. If you were trying to go pro 5-10 years ago, it was much easier.
I think I heard this from Jimmy Miller, but he said this is a qualifier men's singles, I think had like 100 people in it.
Yeah, just the qualifiers.
That's just the qualifiers. And then women were up to like 40, which was crazy because again, 4 years ago, it was like 12 people in the main draw.
Yeah, I was like, they had a hard time just populating the pro women's singles bracket.
It's nuts to see the growth. It's exciting, but it's crazy. Last thing, I saw this on Instagram this morning. This is alleged. This is a rumor, but this is a little bit more paddle drama for you guys that are just so into it. Somebody caught on camera, again, allegedly, I want to just put that out there, that one of the courts were mic'd up at San Clemente. Is that where they're at?
Yeah, they're at San Clemente right now.
San Clemente. And they caught a couple pros who don't know who on the mics talking about how they are putting their paddles in the refrigerator or freezer because it helps them pass the paddle test.
What?
Isn't that nuts?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Wow. I mean, that would make sense because you wouldn't have as much core
crazy
compression. Dang.
So anyway, more paddle drama for you guys. What do you think about that? Leave a comment in the comments. Like, what do you guys think about just all the paddle drama between $100,000 to get your paddle approved, pros putting paddles in the freaking freezer?
Here's the thing. Also, so guys, if you didn't catch a couple episodes ago, we talked about how a pro pickleball player was banned and fined for putting a foreign substance on their paddle, right? Probably cheating. You probably can't add adhesion or stickiness to your paddle to create more spin. Whether he did it or not with ill intent, I don't know. That's not what we're talking about today. But you're not putting anything on your paddle. You're not altering it in gameplay. You're just. But is this cheating?
You're throwing it in the freezer.
Is this cheating to add temperature to your paddle?
The test's got to get better.
Yeah, I don't know. This is also kind of something we're hearing.
Rumor, alleged.
Yeah, but this is something that we're hearing that may be more official by the time this podcast comes out. But I have heard that UPA, they're partnering obviously with Pro Pickle Labs, and they have involved a university in Massachusetts that has been on the kind of the behind the scenes for helping in the MLB in baseball, for helping to do regulations with bats and tests and stuff like that. So I do know they are trying, and they say, allegedly, that they're really working on trying to fix this paddle testing thing.
Well, that's
so
good.
I don't know. We'll see. I think I've heard that there's some stuff that's going to come out soon that will help paddle testing, but TBD, I guess.
TBD. Well, should we go on to the next one?
Yeah, before we do go on to the next one, though, guys, let us know your thoughts on this in the comments. At the end of this episode, we have a question that came in from the last episode, which, just a reminder, guys, please submit your questions to not only your comments, but we want to answer them. We want this to be as interactive as possible. And as the podcast continues to grow, we're going to bring guests on. We're going to make it more interactive, and it'll be a lot of fun. So be sure you let us know your thoughts in the comments. Yeah, but let's go to the next one. We need to tell you about a must-have for anyone in the pickleball world. If you're an avid pickleball player and don't have this app downloaded on your phone, you're missing out on so much. Meet the Selkirk TV app, the first and only free streaming and on-demand app dedicated to everything pickleball. Whether you're a player, a fan, or just curious about the sport, Selkirk TV is your one-stop shop for all things pickleball, like lessons, courses, podcasts, and more. Imagine improving your game with the pros or catching the latest pickleball buzz before anyone else. If you're already watching this episode on this app right now, thank you. But if not, what are you doing? Download the Selkirk TV app now. It's a must-have for anyone who loves pickleball.
So next one, this is a post on the kitchen, and this person says, "It is understandable to scream after a good point, but to do it when your opponent makes an unforced error is in poor taste." And then he shouts out Rachel Rohrbacher, who is one of the pros on tour. Very animated on the court.
She gets pumped.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. Her yell is a little high pitched, but hey, I love the energy. I do
too. Okay, but basically a lot of people weighed in on this. There's like 115 comments of people kind of giving their opinion. So what do you think about, celebrating? And we're not talking when you do something good, but when the opponent makes an error, like hits a ball in the net or whatever.
See, here's the thing. I understand, this idea of pickleball is a momentum sport, and so you don't do anything special, but your opponents hit a dink into the tape or into the net and you win the point. I understand maybe yelling, to really jump on that momentum train to hype your partner up to, feel like you have control of the game. I get why people do it, but I also do think it's annoying.
Okay. So you think it's annoying?
I know when I've played, I'm like, dude, if you play amazing during the point, if you have a 50-shot rally that you come out on top of, or even just you hit a really good shot or a good counter or around the post or something, dude, I'm all for it. I think this is good for the pickleball. I think it's good for pickleball that people are loud and animated. I think it brings a very unique, viewer experience as well when people aren't just quiet. We don't want this to be like other racket sports that aren't to be mentioned. So, but if you do nothing, if somebody hits their third shot into the net on a very below average return, I don't know, if you do nothing and the other team makes an error and you're yelling with that same intensity, I think it's a little annoying. What do you think?
It's interesting. I'm going to tell you guys a story because I feel like this was funny to me looking back on. This is when I first started playing pickleball. Maybe I was like a year in or something. I remember we played a tournament, and you have to remember, I came from individual sports. I didn't really get to play on teams that much. And so pickleball was so fun to me because I was so used to running, which is so individual. So, anyway, when I started playing pickleball, it was so fun because it was this team event. And I remember I was playing this tournament. I was fresh into pickleball. And me and my partner were doing well. And I was just excited after every point. And I celebrated literally after every point. And I remember one of my opponents came up to me after, and she was like, "Hey, just so you know, it's really rude for you to celebrate if, we hit a ball in the net." And you guys, I wasn't like staring at them and like screaming. Like I literally was like just celebrating with my teammate, like high five, like excited, that kind of thing. Like I think it's a very important differentiation. It's one thing to like celebrate in a way that taunts your opponents, and another way to like be excited with your teammate, I think. But it was funny because we ended up playing that team again in like the whatever final or semifinal or something. And like this girl literally gave me like a talking to, and then literally we like dominated them. I think they scored like 3 points on them, but the 3 points that they got, they like celebrated so hard. And it was funny because I was like, okay, you yelled at me for doing it. And then and what was funny is they celebrated hard, and then she stopped herself because she like remembered she like yelled at me for that. And I was like, I don't care. Like, be excited. Again, I think it's one thing if you're doing it to like taunt your opponent and like you're staring them down and screaming. Like, I think that's pretty vindictive. But like, I think you should get excited when you get a point. I just don't think it's that offensive to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's exactly, that makes sense. Like I'm with you. Like if you have ill intent and you're trying to actually taunt somebody and you're being rude, like that's one thing. But if you're just pumped and like,
dude,
and
I'm stoked.
you're stoked that your team is doing well.
Yeah.
I think that's where you were at. But I think it's funny. People
it just was funny.
People get feisty.
She was so offended by that. I was like, dude, we're playing like this local like tournament. I don't know.
I will say I have seen some pros.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah. I've seen some pros recently that they're clearly taunting.
Well, and that's the difference to me, right?
Like I won't mention who he is, but I saw a pro in the last tournament. Somebody tried to speed the ball up down the line and he countered it, and he put his hands up like this and shrugged his shoulders and did like this with his head, like shook his head like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Basically like trying to speed the ball up. I've seen other people like, like too small, you're too small, like stuff like that. Like I think it's funny actually. I think it's so I think it's hilarious. I want more of it viewership wise, but being on the other side of the net, but also there's the thing, I don't know the relationship that he has with the player across the net. Maybe they do this all the time in rec play. It's when you don't know somebody and you're clearly rude.
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, it's like, come on, where's the line?
Yeah, I think that's the line for me, is when you're being vindictive or rude or just like mean. I'm like, okay, like I'm not cool with that. But if so what? They hit a dink in the net. Like if you're excited, you got a point. Like cool.
So guys, let us know in the comments. Do you kind of like the chirpiness, the trash talk side of pickleball? Do you like watching it? Do you like dishing it out or even receiving it? Or have you been like actually taunted before, like playing pickleball? Type in the comments. I'm curious. What's the like craziest thing someone's ever said to you on the pickleball court? Because I've heard some crazy things, and I'm sure you guys have too. Let us know in the comments. Any other thoughts, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Let's move to the next one. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about this, though, because I feel like it's very 50-50.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it.
You dish out a little, too.
I do dish out a little, but I don't think I ever crossed that line of being just like
I think it's
rude.
funny.
To be honest, side note, the last tournament we were playing, I know we were both a little banged up, but the first game, the one that we won, I don't know where it came from. I was kind of like, I was a little chirpy.
Dude, he was like Matt Wright-ish.
And then I don't know where it came from.
Funny.
I don't really do that though. Like funny. In rec play, I don't know. But we won. And then the next game we dropped and I like lost my chirpiness. So I'm wondering if it had anything to do with it. Maybe I should just start chirping more. Anyways, next one here. So this was posted on the Kitchen's Facebook page about 3 days ago. Got a lot of engagement, a lot of opinions here. So I want to hear what you have to say. It says this: I hate that we're well into the pickleball craze, but it's still so cliquey. I do understand playing with friends or advanced players to get better. I do the same, but there's a lot of beginners who stack alone or who have to awkwardly approach people just to play a game or two. We're all beginners at some point. Seems like it's time to be a little bit more inviting at open plays, not just during reserved times with your clique, if you're not going to welcome newcomers into this game. So basically, I don't know if you guys could see, but there's a lot of engagement here. What do you think about pickleball in terms of clickiness? Do you think it's clicky? What do you think? And how? And obviously we understand what this person's saying there.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be willing to play with beginners. We've kind of touched on this before in the podcast a little bit too. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, it is clicky. Let's be honest. Especially I think it gets tricky too when you start getting a little bit more into the advanced groups. It's very clicky. And so it kind of depends. To me, open play, it's hard, right? Because you have a bunch of people, a bunch of different levels. I think for the most part, most advanced players who are clicky end up creating their own private games. And I think that's probably really good. But I think if you're a beginner intermediate at open play, I think, it's you show up to open play because it's open play. Anyone can show up. And so that means any level can show up. That means you could have a court with any, skill group. And there's going to be some people that don't want to play certain people. It's just, I don't know. It is kind of high schoolish in some ways.
Yeah, I think my issue is it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it. There's always going to be people
that's the thing.
I like playing people that are on my level or better than me.
Yeah.
That's my preference. Now, I think I should be aware more that, I could play with some lower level players and have a good time and just be out there to have fun and maybe help bring some people along. I think maybe if everyone adopted this, hey, let's go take one person under our wing kind of thing, that could be good for the sport. But I don't think it's going anywhere. I think people are always going to want to play with people in their similar level. And I think that you should, every now and then, if you feel like you're getting better, go try to hop in and test yourself in a higher level game and kind of see where you stack up. And I think that the advanced players, if you're playing against a lower level player that comes over to your court, don't go easy on them. And I mean that in the nicest way. Show them, if you need to beat them 11-0, 11-1, 11-2, if you need to beat them to show them hey, you're not ready for this, I would say do it, but that way they'll know where they stack up, and probably they might not come back. I know that sounds kind of blunt, but I think there needs to be some crossover. But I think, at the end of the day, the clickiness isn't going anywhere. We just have to find ways to break into different groups. And a lot of that comes by just working on your own game.
And I think you have to remember what your goal is at the end of the day. There are some people that want to play pickleball and don't care to ever compete. They don't care to ever play a tournament unless it's fun. They're just there for socializing.
You have to remember that not everyone's like me.
And then there's other people, which I would say we probably fall into we love the competition. We love to get better. We love to drill, and we do all this extra stuff because we love the competitive side of it. So it's really hard because we're not going to really thrive as much in the social scene because we're not oh, we'll just do this we can't literally, I can't take a game and be it's just for fun. I want to win every game. So
she's competitive.
And well, you are too. So
I am too. Yeah. But she's competitive.
But all that to say, you have to remember everybody's out there for a different reason. Some people are out there just to hang out and have fun. Some people are out there to really test their skills, and to hold everybody to the standard of well, you need to be out here for the same reasons that I am, and you need to play the same way that I do, and you need to look at partners. It's not going to happen. We're all different. We're all out there for a different reason. We all love it for different reasons, and that's what makes the sport amazing to me.
And I do love something about the fact that you can go to an open night and there's people from all walks of life. There's people from a bunch of different You have to sneeze.
I have to sneeze.
Just let it rip.
I
Just let it
can't
rip.
now that you looked at me.
There's people from like all different levels, all different walks of life. I mean, it's something that makes pickleball special. I think you have this melting pot of people. Like you have a really wide demographic, and I think that's really good. And I think that's going to remain because the barrier of entry, and we were talking about that earlier, it's getting, bigger, like the higher level that you get on the pro scene. But what makes pickleball so special is the barrier of entry to actually start playing is very low. Like you don't have to have a ton of lessons or background, just to get into the game. So I think that there's something really special about the sport. And I think you're going to have a melting pot of people, and we're going to have to deal with clickiness. We're going to have to deal with, I think the best thing I would say is just do your best in every area of life to put yourself in other people's shoes before you get mad or make judgments. Like it's so easy to focus on your own opinion and your own perspective, but put yourself in that person's shoes, put yourself in the beginner's shoes or the advanced player's shoes, and just seek to understand. And I think we'll do pretty well.
Yeah. So yes, I agree. It's clicky. It's hard, but
Okay, guys, I think we're going to move on. Do you have anything else?
Mm-mm.
I think we're going to move on to a question and answer time. Like we said, please submit your questions. We'll get to them on the next podcast. We do go through and read them. We did have a question come in. This guy that asked this, he's becoming a loyal question asker, and I really like.
I want to give him a shout out because he actually lives in the same city that we do. And he said hi to us, and it was cool. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love meeting people on the courts. Okay, so I'm going to kind of paraphrase because it is rather lengthy. But here's the question he asked. How do you feel when you play against lobbers that no matter where anyone is standing on the court, even their third shot, when all the players are near the back of the court, obviously lobbing is a great strategy. But how do you feel playing against somebody who is really good at lobs? So they aren't easy, but they lob constantly. Does that ever make it more, less fun? Where it's exhausting and annoying more than an actual fun challenge. Not even asking if the lob is legal. I'm asking if players get annoyed when people lob every other rally. What are your thoughts? Do you get annoyed at a constant lobber? I guess we don't play a ton of those.
We used to.
Do
you remember? When we lived in Texas for a while, and there was a guy who was so good at lobbing, and he lobbed everything.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. Dude, honestly, he was kind of
so nice.
He was kind of a legend, but he
lobbed everything.
He lobbed off the bounce. He volley lobbed, but it's like
and they all landed in. Like they were really good lobs.
It's like he knew that his lob was good, and he did not relent.
No.
But this guy's saying like lobbing from everywhere on the court. I think this guy did it like actually at smart times. Well, but he still lobbed like everything.
That's kind of what I think of though, is like, it was, and let me tell you guys, yeah, it was so annoying to play against because they were in. It was like so frustrating because I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody plays like this. So I think it's annoying, but I also am like, dude, he's getting points off of it. You can't be mad. Like you just have to figure out how to either A, not put them in a position to be able to lob everything, or B, you just have to adjust your game. And it's annoying. Don't get me wrong. I feel you. It's annoying, but you just got to adjust your game and not give them that ability.
The lob is actually such a good shot.
I love a lob. And I love a lob.
I feel like you and I actually both have good lobs, but we don't use them as much as we should. Honestly.
I'm starting to use mine more.
But yeah, here's the thing. I don't come from a tennis background. I was a college baseball player, had played team sports growing up. But, I had a racket in college, and I would play for fun every now and then, but I don't really have a racket sports background. And so to be honest, hitting an overhead is not my best shot. So like, actually, if you're playing against me, lobbing me is not a bad strategy. But I think this brings up another point is that I see tons of people out there drilling. I see tons of people out there warming up before matches. And rarely do I see people drilling or warming up an overhead. So I'm like wondering, like, is this something that if the lob is such a good shot and or maybe you're out there and you're one of these people that gets annoyed by people lobbing, my question would be, how often do you practice your overhead? And I'm speaking to myself here. I feel like I need to incorporate that maybe more into warm-ups and drilling, just because I don't have that natural tennis overhead.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you guys should all practice your lob, because when I get lobbed, I'm reminded, ooh, I have a good lob, and then I lob back.
You do. If I lob her when we're drilling, even if she runs around the lob, hits a drop, comes back to the line, she will always try to lob me back in the same point.
And it's freaking good. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, like, you should learn the lob. It's a great shot.
Yeah, it is a good shot. I think we should practice lobs more, and we should practice overheads more, because I think we're so set on dinks, drops, resets, which we should be. But I do think, even the best team in the world, Ben and Colin, best men's team, actually it's debatable at this point. They've dropped quite a few games this year.
I still think they're solid.
I don't know. I think there's some other men's teams that give them a run for their money right now.
Agreed.
But Ben and Colin have shown that they are susceptible to getting beat by lobbers. Like, people lob against them. It is a strategy to get them off of the kitchen line where they want to play. So I know this is a rather lengthy response about lobs, but I do think it's a good shot. And I think it can get annoying because it doesn't really feel like pickle. It doesn't really feel like you're playing pickleball if somebody's going to lob their thirds, throwing up lobs from everywhere on the court. But again, you have a good overhead, you're probably going to stop doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
That's all I got.
But you guys let us know, are you a lobber? Are you annoyed by lobbers? Where do you fall in the category of lobs? Do you think it's a good shot? Do you get annoyed by people that lob a lot? I almost not got in a fight. I got feisty with someone once. Remember that? For like, they kept lobbing.
Oh yeah, and they were good lobs. Actually, they beat us.
Yeah, they did beat us. And I was to be honest, I was just having a rough day.
We're all friends now.
We all friends. I was just having a rough day. I was like,
shout out to Brandon.
Yeah. Like, everyone's, I think that's something I've worked on too, is that realizing that, and also, thinking about other people on the court, that sometimes people are like having a tough day, and if they get feisty, it's like just an overflow of that. And I'm trying to work on, like, if I'm, having a tough day, like letting it go before I get onto the courts, because oftentimes when you get squeezed, what's inside of you comes out. And I don't know, I'm trying to work on that. I was having like kind of a rough day, and I think that I got annoyed because of that. So just being aware of that, I think is good. But yeah, I've definitely been in this boat. But yeah, let us know in the comments. Do you get annoyed by lobs, or are you just a lobber? Let us know. Guys, also, if you have any other questions, let us know in the comments. We've touched on some great topics in our previous podcast as well. So if you want to go back through the Selkirk TV YouTube app, you can check out some more of our podcasts. Also, we are finally up and running on Spotify and other streaming platforms. So I'd really appreciate a like, a share, and your feedback.
And review it. Give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5, then don't review it.
Sounds good. Nothing else for me.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.